Hello, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon's session on Adobe Summit. If you could put on your headphones, because you won't be able, well, some of you at the front row might be able to hear me. This isn't a comedy club, so you won't get picked on. I'm here to do something much more interesting. Today, we're going to talk about really how we use our own software. This is the Adobe on Adobe, the future of B2B marketing. We hear a lot about agentic. We hear a lot about all the buzzwords. So I want to give some real concrete examples about how we do our work at Adobe. Thank you. My name's Ed Atchison. I'm Head of Innovation for the Middle East and Africa. And that's an area which is constantly seeing a lot of agentic conversations coming up. There's potentially a young workforce, and they're using agents as a way of upskilling everyone, getting people to work quicker, faster, better, with limited resources, with new sort of a workforce and trying less reliance on expats like myself living and helping and working with them. And I'm going to talk a little bit, have some questions at the end. Do feel free to go and approach me afterwards. And we see a technology shift happening. If we go back a little while ago, when the internet was born, and then we went all on to cloud, and suddenly we had all these cloud services, we were in control still of that conversation. There was one place where your brand conversed with everyone else. Fast forward a few years, and suddenly we had search-responsive websites. And we had websites that were even just mobile-only optimized websites. And the nice thing is we were still in control of our brand audience. We still had that conversation one-to-one. And when social came about, it was getting a bit trickier. The influencers, the social content, still didn't necessarily approach us first, but we were able to go out and we were actually able to go and have a conversation, say, listen, could you use our new logo, not our old logo? And the old one makes us look dated, or actually we have this new software out. Try it, see it. Stop talking about the old software. So we had a little bit of control. And actually, this is important when a predictive AI came about, because actually this gave us the power to actually start talking to all these different channels, because this is an additive kind of role. It didn't mean that mobile stopped, social stopped, internet stopped. All of these channels keep growing year on year. And so predictive AI was a massive help. Suddenly, we could start personalizing the experience to everyone. And that really leads us into agentic AI today, and agentic AI as customers. And really, it's a problem because your brand, your customers today, often their first port of call is an LLM. It's ChatGPT, it's Claude, it's Copilot, it's Mistral, any of the 30, 40 different harnesses and modeling engines out there that they could be using, whether it's LLM or other foreign language first models as well. And the problem is you're no longer having that conversation with your brand. You've got someone in the middle. You've got an agent in the middle who's going to be advising your customer on what they should be doing. And quite often, you won't be in that conversation. You'll be excluded from that conversation. But there is an opportunity there, and that's what we're going to get to today, how you can address that opportunity, not just how you can get yourself higher up the citation list up there. And we know that this growth is shaped by customer experience. We know that 70% of people expect a personalized interaction. That's table stakes. You've heard that lots today. We know that actually the content demand's exploding. If you need a personalized experience, you want content to be personalized. You want the imagery to be personalized. You want to know that the same people like you are using the software or driving a car or drinking the orange juice. You want that personalized one-to-one experience, either the person like you or the person you aspire to be. And actually, there's a decline in organic traffic, and that's steady. I was talking to a government website today, and they were saying the story actually, they have the same number of customers, slightly increasing, but year on year now they're seeing a decline in their traffic. And the problem is because people are going to LLMs and asking them, how many people are in their pension pot? How much money is in the pension pot? How can I do this? How can I do that? So they're no longer having a conversation with their customers. They don't own that conversation space. Somebody else owns it. And it's even worse if it becomes negative. Now, I want to do a quick show of hands here. Who here struggles to tell friends and family what they do as a job? Yeah. See, I'm the same. B2B marketing is a science. So I tend to do marketing. I work for a software company. It's a lot easier doing that. Trying to tell them my day-to-day job is really, really tough. Because actually there are thousands of moments, hundreds of systems we need to connect to, months of activity across tens of thousands of touch points. All this needs to come together in one piece. And coordinating across dozens of teams, you've got legal, you've got product, you've got marketing, you've got product marketing, you've got all these other competing teams that also want to put a matrix on top of that. It's hard. So how do we make it easier? Well, there are three things we need to do. Number one is that B2B journey. That B2B journey is not linear. It's not A to B to C to D to close. Actually, it's chaotic. People go everywhere. People return, they go away, they come back, often buying cycles as 12 to 18 months. And so it's hard. And it's not just that. You have different people roles within those organizations' buying cycle. You have the research, you have the influencer, you have the decision maker. The decision maker might not even heard of you until he gets put the check at the end. So all these things are really, really hard. And the hardest bit is if your strategy isn't modeled for nonlinear journeys, then actually you're going to be serving up generic content. You're going to be serving up emails that get ignored. People will disengage over that time, and you will leave pipeline on the shelf that you can't capitalize on. And number two, AI is transforming the customer journey. I'm sure you've heard this a lot in the keynote. And you've got that old adage of brand to consumer. When consumers searched, browsed, compared, brands could create, own the moment, own the conversation, and the experience was measured by visual design and the journey flow. Well, today, the AI is in the middle. Actually, customers are going to the AI, asking for recommendations, asking them to compare. What's even more, they're asking them deep questions. They're asking them their problem statements, and then getting a reasoning engine, someone who has no experience of your product or brand, to give them recommendations off the back. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes, more often than not, it's bad. And so actually, you need to create content and journeys for both the AI and the customer. But there is an opportunity there. There's a dark funnel at the top, which we don't normally get to see. And you see this, I'm sure, today, as your top of your funnel is shrinking slightly. Because no longer your paid, your search media is as effective as it was, because some of that's being taken in the awareness and the consideration by the agents. That is an opportunity for you today, as much as it is a threat if you don't take action. And we're going to go and experience one of our campaigns where we try and get behind how we get to the dark funnel. How, as B2B marketeers, we can do that. And we do this within the three pillars you'll have seen earlier on the customer experience orchestration. We need to engage in that chaotic journey. Wherever they are, whenever they come back, we need to understand their intent, pick up on signals, reform and reframe. In order to capitalize on those signals, we need the right content, and we need a content supply chain that's really humming. If we don't have the content, if it takes us 3 months to go and create new content, because it's going off to an agency, it's going off here, it's going off there, multiple rounds of review, backwards and forwards, we can't create customer engagement because we're too busy doing our own job. So we need to empower our marketeers to create the content, and using brand visibility and brand intelligence to make sure it's the right content in the right place across all the various different channels, all powered by Adobe's AI platform. And this is a nice quote from Rachel Thornton, our CMO. And actually, when we think about the future of marketing, not on a distant horizon, 3-4 years ago, doing, oh, where are we going to go? Maybe one day we'll prompt. Well, the future of marketing is here. We're shaping it as a room together. Some of the things I'm talking about customers, some of the things we're thinking about have not been done before because the power suddenly is shifting to be able to create the future here. And I think that's the exciting thing, to seize the moment, use these tools as foundation blocks to discover opportunities, get the marketing message out there. Get ready for that nonlinear campaign and really grab hold of that dark funnel. So here's a real-life campaign that we ran last year around, we're trying to target a creative decision maker and persona, creative director. We wanted to do three things. We wanted to drive continuous engagement through a personalized digital journey. We wanted to maximize reach and a strong presence in creative environments. We didn't want to just spray social media with a whole bunch of ads. We want to really be targeted and maximize our spend. And we want to drive awareness of the comprehensive solutions that we have and the creative challenges. So we wanted to actually be very sort of responsive within our campaign. Now I'm going to take you through the 5 steps when we run a campaign, what that looks like. Now yours might change, there might be 6, there might be 7. In the middle, there'll be lots of different backwards and forwards, but roughly this is how we're going to go through everything. I'm going to show how we use the tools to do this more successfully. So the first is we need to be able to plan. Now planning used to be thought of very much as you get the right brief, that helps everything move along. Some people look at it as a checkbox activity. But it's much more with that. You need to start with a plan. Here where you can see the campaign metadata, campaign details, execution recommendations. We'll get into the recommending channel shortly. And there's about 30 or 40 fields underneath it. It's a record to show that we want to create this campaign. And more importantly, it's a record to the rest of the organization that we're going to create this campaign, who it's going to target to. Because as we move from quarterly campaigns into monthly campaigns, as the content supply chain moves on into always-on marketing, there's a good chance in complex marketing organizations, you're going to be running your campaign at the same time as a big product launch in another area of the business if you're not careful. So this is where you can collaborate. This is where you can understand what's going on with the organization. And in the future, you can look back and see the success, how you planned it, what the success was. So we start with that campaign record in workfront planning. We collaborate with comments and context, and it's across the whole of the enterprise marketing. And the nice thing is we can then go in and have a look and see, actually, are there any other campaigns running at the same time by the audience? Or are there any campaigns targeting creative decision makers? And actually, we can do that with simple filters, with groupings of breakdowns, searching through. And we can see here, actually, there's another campaign running. There's the FY25 Max In-Person Registrants event campaign, which is also targeting creative decision makers, both in person and at the event. So actually now I can reach out to that team, collaborate on their brief, and understand off the handoff points. But more importantly, how we can both capitalize on each other's marketing activity rather than cannibalizing the message and the brand spend across all those different areas. And that's really important as we move on because, you know, you can see here, these are 3-month-long campaigns. When you get to always-on campaigns and you're responding to trends, to themes, to memes in the marketplace, you might be running weekly, 2-weekly campaigns because you can with the power of agentic, as we'll see shortly, but you need to be aware of what the rest of the marketing organization is doing. And then we need to plan, and this is where Workfront can help. So you can see here, we've got a lot of different channels it's suggesting. We've got a lot of our bill of materials, whether it's messaging, web page, video, reports, live event content, all of this. There's a lot of content to get through. There's a lot of channels to surface. And this is without any kind of personalization. Here, there's no personalization. There's no different segments. This is just our base level content. We are not going to optimize at this stage. So how do we start when we have all that material? Well, luckily, we can go in and look at our content map. Actually, we can have a look at what content already exists. And if you see the initials CDM, that's short for Creative Decision Maker, as we go through. And we can see some of the areas. So we've got the Global Creative Decision Maker Persona campaign. We've got here the events, the Global Creative persona campaign. So this one, we know this is happening. We're around Max. We don't want to put extra information in for the creatives to go and create, the marketeers. We want to leave that out. We want to recognize it's there. So that's empty, and that's empty for a reason. We can see here that there's a global creative trends report coming out. It's not complete yet. It's still being planned and worked on. So it's something we can factor in or maybe factor out as we go through. But we can go in and actually work with those teams and see whether we can leverage those reports coming through later on. And this is key because not only do you want to optimize the audience reuse, as you've seen, this is optimizing the content reuse as well. So actually, we can see that somebody else has used the creative trends report, and they've actually created a promo kit as well. Now, I've gone in and had a look at that promo kit, and actually it's not quite right for what we need, but we can maybe borrow a couple of things from that and use it with our own promo kit as well. And so actually, this is reusing content, it's reusing audiences, it's making and increasing the power of our B2B marketing. So great, we've got a brief, we know our baseline content, how do we actually create the campaign as we go through? So this is where Gen Studio comes in. You may have seen that talked about today. And it's got a whole bunch of tools in there already that you can use. It's got the personas, the profiles, established as key business challenges. And one of those is a creative decision maker. Perfect. We can use that as a starting point. Also, it knows our products and our solutions. So we don't have to tell it to start it from scratch. It knows what Firefly is. It knows what the creative tool set is. It knows what Adobe Aero is. So we know about its value proposition. We know what templates and lockups to use as we go through. And we have those brand guidelines for AI-powered brand validations, for suggestions, and potentially even for recommendations using those synthetic audiences. And actually, we can go in, and then we can see, here's our Adobe Firefly template. We have a template already we can reuse. And actually, as we start to go through, because it knows our audience, because it knows who we're targeting towards, actually, it can start to create everything we need. You see here at the top, we've got the enterprise, we've got the persona, we've got the audience, and the product we want to target with a lockup you saw earlier here. Now, I've taken the asset from AEM Assets of the other campaign because I rather liked it as a seed within the media. And then it's even filled out a prompt, which I can then tweak, I can then change a little bit, but essentially, that's a prompt that will help generate the whole campaign off the back of. And as we go through, we can see that it's given me a brand score of 91, which is pretty good. Now, I could dig into that, find out what the issue is. Maybe the headline isn't as strong as it could be. And I could maybe tweak it, maybe change it, or I could carry on. So let's carry on. And let's request approval. So we know it's been rubber stamped by the brand approval. And we can actually go and send it off to the studio, who know it's got 91%. So maybe they won't spend as much time on it as other campaigns which have got a lower score. And this is some of the core content that we've created. Our creator trends report, we've got our landing page, we've got our email, we've got our social here, whole bunch of different content. And then because we understood around the other areas of Max, we were able to then build on that. And this is the whole decision maker content for each channel. You can see at the top, we've got our sponsored email, our content syndication, we've got our web landing pages, our signing up for newsletters and PDFs. We then got our paid social, LinkedIn, we'll talk about that a little bit more, and into pushing forward to into the Max. So again, one of the things that was done was then to leverage the Max to actually say, if you're a creative decision maker, let's create the extraordinary together, understand how we do that and leverage that campaign. I did a series of web activations on that. We have our welcome emails, because it's very important once you start people interacting and joining and finding out more, we nurture them as they go through into newsletter, into the persona pages. So that's a huge amount of data, a huge amount of content. And we constantly had to reorder the content. We constantly had to personalize each of the pieces of content, the headlines, the images, to make sure we were getting the best out of our use of this spend. So we've got our plan, we've got content, but now we need to identify, we need to target and convert the dark funnel and engage that creative decision maker. So how do we do that? First, we need to find those right channels, those right accounts. And we're going to look at 3 areas. Are they the right profile for us? And this is an example customer, Luma, but are they the right customer? Are they the right size? Have they got a renewal coming up? And then what's their engagement? What are they liking? What are they engaging with as a company? Here we can see, hot as Firefly. And then what's their intent? What do they want to? So here we got, they're surging on content and scale, digital asset management, and AI-powered creative. So these are the kind of signals we look for as we merge and finding that sweet spot for the targets we want to convert. And then within that company, we have to find the right people. And this is tricky with B2B marketing. Here we want those creative decision makers. And we're going to use a variety of signals. So not just their job level, it might be their functional area, it might be their job title, it might be the skills even on LinkedIn that they have. They might have an head of AI title, a head of innovation title, but actually very interested in posting in generative AI, in Firefly, in looking at other models. So we want to take all those signals along with the company as 2 aspects of that signal. And this is what the funnel looks like. So we have about 370 attributes coming from 15 different data sources, some of our own, some of them third party. Out of those, we have 262,000 accounts. That's our total addressable market that we have. Now, the problem being is that actually we only know 28,000 of them. And even worse, only 10,000 are emailable. Now, I'm sure you've got similar figures, because actually that's only 4%. But actually that's also the opportunity, because the rest, the 96%, that is attributable to the dark funnel, and that's what we're going to go after. So yes, we can only today look at 4%, but that 96% becomes a new audience. So we've got our audience, we've got our creative, we've got our plan. Now we need to orchestrate. Remember that chaotic journey we had earlier? People going everywhere, picking up, forgetting, going off to LLMs, going to ChatGPT, going off to Claude, trying to figure out why on earth would you buy your product? In this case, why on earth would you buy Adobe Firefly? What's good about it compared with Gemini, compared with Luma, compared with other models? What does it do differently? There's a lot of misunderstanding, I'm sure, in your B2B markets as you try and differentiate yourselves in the marketplace. And actually, you need to pick up on those intense signals and actually orchestrate that experience. And this is an example of the creative decision maker journey map, simplified. So we start off with paid media and email. And that paid media goes into broad reach of targeting known creative decision makers. And then we're into that landing page, that creative decision-making landing page. Again, picking up the signals, making that personalized. So if they engage the marquee and the carousel, then we might push them towards the resource center and blog pages. If they sign up for a newsletter, then we want to trigger a welcome, nurturing campaign about them, getting them interested, seeing what makes them excited. If they engage with customer stories, then let's send them or allow them to download relevant peer case studies or Forrester reports for social proof. And then we want to explore that solution content. So here we're trying to delve out what to get them excited and pick up, because again, this is a chaotic journey. They don't just do this once. They might come here 3-4 times. They might even come here through an agent and not realize they're coming through from an agent. And this is actually what our journey orchestration map looks like. And it's quite nice seeing on a big screen. Normally, it's quite hard to read it, and you end up zooming up and only seeing about that much of it when you look at it in real life. But let's dig into what's happening. So here this is all all in Adobe Journey Orchestration, and this is the data that we've got from our real-time CDP in Adobe Experience platform. So that unifies the account and the contact data, and that is really our audience that we're trying to attract. And then we're going to do some paid media activation, and we're going to try a range of different LinkedIn activations across those. We're going to look at relevant thought leadership content, and we're going to drive traffic into the owned creative decision maker experience. And then as they start to interact with that, we're going to want to pick up those signals and actually capture those. And they might be captured within our own sites, they might be captured by third-party data. But if people are interacting, they might be even then picking up within that dark funnel, and we can see those prompts coming through. We want to be able to capture that signal data, and then we want to create a response. So trigger newsletters, nurture journeys, personalized follow-ups, maybe even personalized follow-on social media campaigns. And this is really important because it isn't a journey. I know this looks like a continual journey, but actually people will drop out, drop back in, come back in, and actually as we go along, we might branching off this area because actually this might go to several little areas. So this will grow. This is our baseline we start from. That chaotic journey will spawn lots of other journey orchestrations, lots of thought pieces. And that's especially true today when you use Coworker, because actually Coworker will enable you to actually find new opportunities. You can ask it, how is this performing? Are there sub-audiences in here that I can actually get hold of, engage, and target in a different way? So this is where Adobe Coworker is a real game changer for me. It means I don't have to spend time looking at reports, going into the tools. I can just ask constantly, boom, 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 every single day. Lots of ideas spring up. Quite a creative person, so I want it to find those answers for me. I start to get frustrated when it takes 20 seconds to return back what it would have taken 3 weeks of asking the data analytics team. This is really what the customer sees. You may have seen this last year. These are our LinkedIn ads. You can see, the Kate Spade fashion ads and the AI system in the middle, and some of the other creative customers, that we created. Again, LinkedIn videos, newsletters, ads. You can see here again, we had the Adobe Max co-activation again. So again, it's reusing all those touch points all the way through, building on other people's campaigns, building on other people's audiences, and really focusing on and changing and optimizing. And as we went through, we wanted to generate that buzz for Adobe Max and capitalize on it. We saw a lot of excitement about Firefly on the back of that. So then in real time, we were able to pivot. We were able to go and feed more content, more optimization and personalization around the topics people were looking for. And then you need to optimize, as I just said. You need to measure the performance, optimize those journey and the next steps, because your first guess, even with agentic prediction going through, isn't going to be right. You're going to want to sub-optimize. You're going to say this little group of people over here can go off on this journey. We'll try this. We'll experiment that. We'll do some A/B testing, some message testing over here. And this is where actually customer journey analytics becomes brilliant, because actually you can see who attended Adobe Max, who in real or in virtual, and actually you can capture those hot leads, and you can retarget those hot leads just at a click of a button. This is a very old school way of doing it because we're doing it within a UI, but actually today you can do that just by saying, hey, well, we haven't given it a name. It hasn't got a catchy name like Claude or Sam or Mistral or something like that. Ours is just Coworker, but you can ask Coworker to go and actually create that audience, and you can filter to attended who flagged on Firefly as an area of interest and visited Max either virtually or in person. And maybe even, for those who actually went to the Firefly stand, we can make them extra hot in terms of profile. And then we can retarget them. It's as simple here as right-clicking, but in the target UI, you just say, build me an audience, design me a journey to retarget them, check it, edit the content, build it through, and you're done. in moments. So what we saw when we started to go in was not just that we could optimize those moments, optimize those audiences, but actually with LLM Optimizer, we were able to boost our campaign to the dark funnel. So we could actually create a Firefly feature page because we saw people at Max interested in Firefly. We could improve the structure. We created additional content based on some of those sub-prompts, and we created semantic clarity so the LLMs could understand the context behind everything. And this led to a 56% increase in brand visibility in LLMs and 150% increase in citation score. And that's possible because we had all those other areas intact. We had the plan, we had the content, we had the audiences, and we could go in and optimize that and find that space. Now, I can't tell you exactly how many of that 268,000 people we actually captured out of that total addressable market, but actually it was a lot more than the 4% we started with. And that's our job as marketeers, to grow that funnel, to try and find those missing segments. Otherwise, you're going to find the decline in your funnel keeps on going along as people move their conversations from your brand to LLMs where you have no control over. So we've seen how we can drive that continuous engagement through a personalized digital journey that can be chaotic, that can pick up over and drop off over 3 months. You've seen how we can maximize that reach with a strong presence in targeted creative environments, how we're able to understand the creative decision maker, how we're able to use all those signals, all that intent that going across all the different business units and data sources that we had to go and help move them on their journey and to drive awareness of our creative solutions. And this is how we did it within Adobe. On the first area, the planning, we used Workfront Planner and Workfront itself. And this is important because actually this is your system of record. It's no longer about necessarily rounds and rounds of review, complex processes, 38 steps processes. As you've seen, actually the beauty of this is a system of record where you can collaborate and you're visible within the whole of organization. Otherwise, you're going to bump into other campaigns and you're going to have problems as you go along. And if it's it's a CMO's pet campaign that you butt up against and destroy their launch, then they're going to be upset. So these things matter. And these things are important, not just for your customers, but within your organization. We've seen actually Gen Studio for Performance Marketeers, how you can put creation of campaigns into marketeers' hands. For big brand campaigns, you might still want a big, agency campaign, but then actually you might use Gen Studio to also expand the marketing activity another few months at a very lesser cost. You've seen how AEM Assets can store all the content across all your marketing campaigns, so you can reuse it, and actually target and AEM sites can then redefine, remodel, and actually personalize the content in near real time. And then we used our real-time customer data platform to target our customers and to understand signals, to monitor those signals. And that's really important because those signals give us clues on how they come through, how we can respond, and how we can orchestrate that journey. And we use that with Journey Optimizer B2B edition. That's really important because it's about account-based marketing. This isn't about a simple consumer going off and do a consumer journey. It's much more complex than that. You need to understand the whole of the company, the whole of the makeup, and how that fits together alongside a Marketo Engage. And then customer journey analytics and LLM Optimizer for those last steps in the optimize. And actually today, I would include Coworker running throughout all of this. This would be my first port of call, and I'd go into all the different tools as and when I needed it going through. And I think that's the key bit as we go through today. That agentic workflow is changing, and it's changing rapidly. And these tools enable us to do serve an incredible amount of complex, personalized content. The agentic tools, that future of marketing that Rachel Thorne's talked about, that is today. So keep growing. Wherever you are on maturity, keep pushing, keep trying. We can give you headroom to evolve and stay ahead in a fast-changing world. And you're in safe hands knowing that actually half of our business is dedicated to going out and finding B2B customers and commercial customers. So actually, we are customer zero for all this technology. Our marketing teams use these technology first and shape those experiences. So they have been tested, it drives half of our business, if not all of it. Now leverage that purpose-built AI, leverage the harnesses. And they don't have to be co-worker, they can be your own harnesses that you developed with MCP connections or APIs into tools. So there's a whole bunch of interesting areas where you can leverage the AI, but get it into people's hand, get the right guardrails in place. And then we provide that engine, that unique combination of content supply chain, brand visibility, brand intelligence, and a connected platform at scale. And connect those three together. So thank you very much. I hope you are the future of marketing. I'm excited next year to see what progress we've made, what progress you've made when I'm talking to you on the floor earlier. It's amazing the journeys you're all going on, and it's amazing how you're empowering your staff. And I just, it's one of the best times I've seen in the marketing experience. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to thank you for your attendance. And I'm going to ask for any questions. We have a little bit of time here for some questions. Who's going to be brave and ask the first one? We have one there in the middle. I'm going to go and become almost a DJ and listen in on you here.
Hello.
Hello.
I'll have to take that off. Can't listen to myself. Right at the start of that, you talked about that messy journey between multiple different users and the relationship between that and what potentially is a new customer. When you were talking about signals in terms of people engaging with content, have you built anything that understands if the right members of a team are looking at the content and how that kind of builds into a model to understand whether it is starting to influence the decision makers?
Great question, and yes. And because you have researchers, you have junior members, you need to see how they fill in. If you're looking at a group of team members that are doing loads of AI research and the creative decision maker isn't, it could mean one or two things that you need to work out. Either he doesn't care about it, or they don't care about it, or actually they are listening to their team and their team is doing the work and he's going to make a decision. So you need to bear that in mind. But you also then need to, in this case, we wanted to target precisely those creative decision makers rather than running a larger campaign focused on every team member all the way through. And I think there are times where you want to do the broader response. There are times when you focus on those key decision makers to try and drive interaction, particularly around certain areas. The nice thing is being able to use both those signals. So when you see an account actually become warmer because more people are engaging it, it becomes a warmer account. Even if your creative decision maker has stayed static, it's still a warmer account. So yes, with a B2B edition and Marketo Engage, both of those have that functionality built within it. It's a great question. Who else has got a question? Who here has used LLM to go and research a product, a B2B product here? Can we have a show of hands? There's a lot of you out there, and then this is really what makes it exciting for me is we're now turning even ourselves to what we need to buy. How do we do things? And our first option is turning to LLMs. That's also the opportunity because it's a new market out there, and we have to capitalize on that. We have to establish our brand and our brand voice on there. If you do want to come and ask me some questions, feel free to come and ask me any questions behind. Is there any last questions before we've got one question at the back. Thank you.
Hello, Ed. I'm Sadhna. So the question that I have is at the orchestration phase, when we already have a very intuitive tool like Adobe Marketer Engage, what does the what role does Journey Optimizer play in this flow?
It's a really interesting question because I love Marketo Engage. It's a great tool. I think the interesting part about the journey orchestration tool is it enables you to do some more interesting sort of areas of communication of orchestration. And it also gives visibility into other areas of how people are interacting. Can you do both with both areas? Pretty much, yes. And Marketo's AI is coming along nicely. It's got some nice tools and feature in there. But I think the way that Adobe is moving towards is actually this agentic co-worker surface that Marketo will become part of, journey orchestration is part of today. And actually, just like our creative side, where actually it doesn't matter what tool you're using, what generative model you're using, whether that's Gemini, whether that's Firefly, actually it's the same the other end. It doesn't matter which tool under the hood you're using necessarily. We will find the right tool for you to be able to use to get the right result. So you start spinning that around to actually focus on the outcome and then let the tool work out as an organization which is better to perform. And I think there's pluses and minuses in both. But when you start to do that, you start to see some really interesting sort of decisions that the reasoning engine behind co-workers starts to make on how it do things. Adobe is great because it has a huge amount of flexibility, but also hard because it has that huge amount of flexibility, precisely to your point around, Marketo Engage or journey orchestration. Co-worker allows you to do both. Whether you use both, that really comes down to your specific use cases. And you might not need might not need the power of the Adobe Experience Platform, but I would say the platform is where you can capture those third-party intent, other signals, and start moving through. And it'll depend about your scale of your organization, but happy to chat to you afterwards and direct you to some experts as well, because there's no easy answer to that question. That's a good one, though. I'm going to duck out and make a politician's answer on that one, I'm afraid. So I want to say thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed Adobe Summit. I've enjoyed talking to you. Like the interactions, we've got only a couple of minutes. I'm going to send you off early in time to get some coffee and enjoy the next sessions as we go through. Thank you.